Back here on HQ, it's like the viral trend going around. Just give me my money. Big names out there still looking for new contracts, and time is ticking because the regular season's around the way. So Trent Williams, if you want a deal, you better come to terms with the 49ers. We're talking Jamar Chase. We're talking CeeDee Lamb. Big-time offensive players who want big-time money. Time to put up, or we'll say just quiet up on the other side. My guy Ryan Wilson tapping in with us. And Ryan, let's start with CeeDee Lamb, because we've gone from Jerry Jones first saying that there was no urgency to then him maybe walking it back but not really making too much sense to now the latest he's saying that they have had promising talks. Does the deal get done, and what do you think of just this whole circus that we've had?
Zach, good to see you. I love the little jab there to our buddy Brandon, the huge Cowboys fan. Yes. All the turmoil going on in Dallas. And it feels like Jerry talks sometimes before he has a full thought about what he wants to say, and then he has to walk it back. You talked about that with CeeDee Lamb. They need to get this deal done, and depending on who you talk to, some people might think that the Cowboys have the leverage here, but CeeDee Lamb is in the rare position of being a non-quarterback who is so incredibly important to that football team that even Dak Prescott, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the game, if he doesn't have CeeDee Lamb, this offense is going to struggle. And I think they're going to have to find a way to get this done. And there are recent reports that the hang-up right now is the length of the deal. The Cowboys typically like to have these deals shorter than perhaps the player would like. But again, CeeDee Lamb is uniquely positioned to ask for pretty much what he wants. Is he going to get Justin Jefferson money, which is $35 million a year? Probably not, but he'll get something close to that. And that's what they have to sort out in terms of the length of the deal and obviously the average annual value. But I think CeeDee Lamb is well within his rights to hold out as we sit here, Zach. And I would imagine the Cowboys would love to have had him in camp 2 weeks ago as opposed to having these conversations. And just a little free advice. Let the PR people handle the PR if you're Dallas. Jerry, you don't need to talk about CeeDee Lamb and whether there's any urgency or not, because at the end of the day, it doesn't seem to help move things along.
Yeah, CeeDee only 25 years old, and those numbers that he's put up in the short part of his career have been nothing but impressive. 25 years old to a now 36-year-old. When we look at Trent Williams, he wants more money as well, continuing that holdout with the 49ers, who have a lot of issues on their hand, and we'll get to another one. But starting with the offensive line, what should the 49ers do when it comes to Trent?
36 years old is ancient in NFL terms, unless you were talking about Trent Williams, and he has not been there with the team. Clearly, we haven't seen him in any preseason games. He wants that deal that you talk about there. And Deshaun Jackson, his former teammate in Washington, said on Fox that he's working out and that he should be there. When you ask Kyle Shanahan about it, and Kyle Shanahan talked about Trent and Brandon Aiyuk, he said 0 updates. So depending on who you talk to, Trent will show up there. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to, Zach. When we talk about the 49ers, the first names we bring up are Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle. Perhaps the first name should be Trent Williams, because that offense goes only as Trent Williams allows it to go. He is so important to what they do. The best left tackle in football, still at age 36. He is valued at whatever he says he's worth, and that's what he should get. And I know they have a ton of guys to pay, and Brock Purdy's coming up, but you have to start with Trent Williams, because you can pay every one of those skill position players and your quarterback. If he's not protected, it won't matter. So I think Trent Williams ends up being there, as Deshaun Jackson noted, and I think that the 49ers are going to have to end up paying him because he is critical to their success on offense.
Yeah, talk about their offense and talk about just more headaches for John Lynch right now, because it's not like Trent Williams is the only deal you need to get done on the other part of the offense. You look at Brandon Aiyuk, a stalemate that seems like has been going on for such a long time. Requested that trade back on July 16th, but we could even go back to during the draft when they took Ricky Pearsall, and maybe the writing being on the wall of the days of Aiyuk being numbered. But now he's holding in, and maybe there's a trade with the Steelers. Maybe he signs to stay with the 49ers. What do you think ends up happening?
Such a weird series of events. Going back to the draft, as you noted, they drafted Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver out of Florida. He's been banged up for part of the training camp. And we saw in the graphic there that Brandon Aiyuk is holding in. And that sort of feels like, Brandon, you and your girlfriend break up, but you refuse to move out of the house because you don't want to pay rent somewhere else. Look, man, you got to make a decision. What are we doing here? We are 2 weeks away from NFL football being in the regular season. Brandon Aiyuk is important to what they do, but again, I just talked about the other players they have, and if they had a trade on the table with the Steelers that would have gotten them some draft compensation, with the understanding that you have Ricky Pearsall waiting in the wings and you don't need him right away, it feels like something they would have done previously. The other thing is they're going to run out of money at some point salary cap wise. I mentioned Brock Purdy's going to have to get paid. We just talked about Trent Williams. So it's an interesting, confusing situation in San Francisco. Brandon Aiyuk makes that team better, Zach, no doubt about it. But the question is, do you have enough money to pay everyone and keep everyone happy? There's only one football. And if you had opportunities to move them, I'm sort of curious why they didn't do it. Not only with the Steelers, but previously we heard that the Browns were interested, the Patriots on some level. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I think Brandon Aiyuk probably ends up playing. I don't know if it's going to be in week 1, but I think he stays in San Francisco. It's just a curious series of events that's gotten to this point.
Yeah, probably a curious sense of events you can look at in Baltimore, in Cincinnati as well when we talk about Jamar Chase, because he's not happy. He wants to get more money, and we saw Joe Burrow when he got his new deal happen not too long before the regular season began of week 1 for his case. So for Jamar Chase and his situation, what do you think happens?
This feels like, I don't want to call it an unforced error on the part of the Bengals, but they're coming off the season in which Joe Burrow got hurt and their season sort of went south in a hurry. And they need guys like Jamar Chase. T. Higgins made it known during the offseason that he wanted a new deal. That's not going to happen. He's going to play in the franchise tag and almost certainly leave Cincinnati after the season. But we talk about this all the time, Zach. You have Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo and helping Josh Allen reach the heights that he's currently at. We saw what Tyreek Hill did for Tua Tagovailoa, and we saw the same thing with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow early in their career, and obviously they played together at LSU. So you can have a situation where you stand strong with Jamar and tell him you're not going to give him a deal this year, but I don't know if you want to disgruntle Jamar Chase playing in 2024 if it affects your chances to get back to the playoffs in an incredibly tough division. Again, there's only so much money to go around, but they have money set aside for Jamar Chase. The question is, again, how much is it going to be? Are we talking $35 million range like Justin Jefferson? I don't think he's probably worth that based on his production, but it's going to be close. Amon-Ra St. Brown's right there on that graphic as well. He got $30 million and well-deserved. Jalen Waddle's closer to $26 or $27 million. So in that range, but to your point, are they going to do it sooner or later? And if they do it later, how will that affect Jamar Chase's mindset? And not to say he's not professional, but we all know that we think about these things, rightly or wrongly, as we get through the season if he's not getting paid what he thinks he's worth.
Yeah, just from that graphic right there, that 2021 draft class, he's certainly, Jamar Chase is worth the money compared to the other people that were taken in his year. Ryan Wilson, thank you so much tapping in with us. NFL is just around the corner, and we cannot wait for that. And you know that CBS is always your home for the NFL, with that season kicking off in just a few weeks on September 8th. Remember, every Sunday when it's time to watch football, head on over to CBS or stream on Paramount Plus for all the coverage of the NFL.